Hey there folks, and welcome back to the IMCDB project. I'm of course your host CDB. You're not, being joined by the inspector.
How
As
you
you
doing,
see
guys?
here, inspector's been visiting the last couple of days west by God, Virginia. We're having a nice, just Dos Equis. Cheers. Just been enjoying the wild and wonderful outdoors. Inspector, of course, is from the Jersey area, so this is a little bit different for him. Anyway, I want to just make a video and rap about shaving stuff, which is usually where most of the questions come in. And specifically, we had a question from a gentleman with respect to razor care. Like, what do you do after you use your razor? How do you remove rust from razors? And all sorts of questions in that regard. And I can tell you, I'll start by just telling you what I used to do, or at least give you some tips on razor care as I know it, and then the inspector will sort of go through his routine. I think what you should do, for one, is definitely take the blade out of the razor, disassemble the razor after using it, rinse it off completely, remove all the soap residue. I'm sorry for all the background noise, but I can't do anything about traffic, so there's that. But anyway, rinse it completely. If you want to get a soft bristle toothbrush, you can put some Dawn on it and scrub it if you want to. That's probably overkill for daily use, but you certainly can do that. And just wipe it clean and make sure it dries and leave it out to dry. That's the number one thing you can do to prevent daily residue. If you don't do those things, you will get daily residue. Now, when you get daily residue, there's a number of things you can do, but I just like to use Barbicide. Follow the directions on the bottle of Barbicide. You mix it with water, in a certain volume. Follow the directions, because it can be dangerous stuff if ingested. You don't want to leave it around kids, or take the potential for your pets to maybe ingest it. I suggest you just get one of the Barbicide jars like the barbers use. You can get them on Amazon, 15 or 20 bucks. Mix it up, put them in there, and it has a little pull tray. So you submerge it in the Barbicide, which disinfects the razor, as well as it will do a pretty good job of removing a lot of debris and residue, and also completely disinfects it. It kills basically everything. For removing rust, it depends on if it's surface level rust or if it's rust into the metal. If it's rust into the metal, you might be able to remove some of it with a high grit sandpaper, but generally if it's deep in the metal, there's not a whole lot you can do. Surface rust, sometimes you can use Fitz or Moz. What is it, Moz?
Moz, yes.
Or some of the metal polishing compounds, and it will remove some of that, and they also do a great job. Personally, I use Fitz or Flitz. Is it Fitz or Flitz?
Flints, yeah.
Flitz, something like that. I think he uses Moz, and he'll go into that in a minute, but it does a really good job of cleaning up old razors, and especially if you have brass or copper, something that tarnishes, it will remove all that, like Flitz. Now, if you want patina on your razor, do not use those, because it will remove your patina if you have an old razor. Those are the things that I do. I do highly recommend Barbicide if you follow the manufacturer directions. Inspector, if you would, go into what your suggestions are.
Yeah, sure. These are the guys who address the guys who buy a lot on eBay, which I've done a lot of. Okay. When you get a razor on eBay, you don't know where the razor has been, guys. So the first step I do is put in Barbicide, read the directions like Chris was saying, okay, and let it soak for about 10 minutes, no more than about 10 minutes. Get a brush, like a toothbrush, and work it into the grooves, get it all cleaned out. Once you've done that, dry it thoroughly, okay, you can let it air dry, and now you can take it to the Flints or Moz, okay, and with the toothbrush you can use a toothbrush and or a polishing like a cotton rag, and really get into it, okay, and that will remove the patina. Now if you're into patina like Chris was saying, okay, it'll remove all that, okay, but for watermarks and things like this, it will take it all off. Okay, so once you've done that, you want to remove the excess flints or moths from it. Rinse it under hot water. You can take some Dawn to it. Go back to the barbicide, okay, after all that. And then you can let it set for 10 minutes. Do the same process. Rinse it off.
Key point that
Yeah.
I forgot to mention. Barbicide, 10 minutes, generally no longer.
Mhm.
It can remove
Yes.
paint, plastic stuff. You don't want to leave it in there for a super long time. If it's a colored type, anodized, you don't know what it might do. So follow the directions. I'm sorry, go
Yes,
ahead.
it will remove that stuff if you let it go too long. Same thing if you're using what do I call that?
Ultrasonic.
Ultrasonic cleaner. It will do that too. So you want to be cognizant of that. Don't put it in too many times, or you're going to have to replace the paint that you removed. Okay. So you do all that, and once you do, you're going to find that. And if you're going to resell it, some guys like use it for themselves or flip it again on eBay. Guys, if your razor looks good and it works, as you know, it tightens up, it clicks on all if you have an adjustable, you're going to get a lot more for your razor than if it was just like what we call user grade and not anything done to it. So that may be worth it for you to take the time and the investment, little bit of time, little bit of elbow grease to get in there and work it to where you can sell it for a lot more than you would have otherwise. Okay. So that's, if you're selling it on eBay, that's a major point to consider.
Another question I get from time to time from folks is about lubrication of the threads, oils, things of this nature. Definitely you don't want to put any sort of toxic type oils on your razor. Now there are products like Frog Lube that are non-toxic, that if you just had to, or you live in a super humid environment, on these say razors that have a lot of moving parts, like the what am I looking for, the vintage razors with the closing doors,
Yeah, the twist to open.
twist to open
Yes.
style razors that have metal parts inside and out. You could use something like Frog Lube that is absolutely non-toxic. Doesn't matter if you ingest it, doesn't really matter if you get it on your skin. That would be my recommendation. If you must lubricate, you could put a little Frog Lube on the threading. It wouldn't hurt it at all, because it's not going to be toxic to you. That's really the main concern, is not that it's going to hurt the razor, but you don't want that stuff, any type of heavy toxic oils, or any oil for that matter that's toxic or not good for you, on your face. Sorry if the camera's moving. We've got a good wind, a good breeze going through here all
Yes.
of a sudden. I think it's
Feels
blowing
good,
the
though.
camera a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyhow, the main thing is, I think, in my view, common sense. Disassemble, take the blade out. One of the biggest things is, if you leave a blade in a razor for a week or so, you could start getting discoloration where the blade meets the, it's happened to me. I used to not leave blades in razors at all. I have from time to time recently, and you can see where that discoloration is beginning to form on the top cap and base plate. Take the blade out. Even if you just rinse it and wipe it down, you're going to be well ahead of the game. With old razors that you've got to clean up, you just have to be careful. And if you do use an ultrasonic cleaner, which works very well, you have to be cognizant of how long you keep it in there, because if you have razors like the vintage Fat Boys that have the paint marks, ultrasonic cleaners will remove the paint from those numbers. I can tell you from experience, because I have done it. Now you can repaint those numbers and marks, you know, that's no problem, but just be aware that it can and will remove paint from surfaces. And I've even had razors in there so long it starts to remove the paint, like the blacking on certain razors itself. So be careful, be gentle. Soft bristle toothbrush, non-abrasive stuff generally, or stuff that's super high grit, that's not going to scratch if you have to remove rust. I mean, those are my recommendations.
Sure. If you have especially like if you have an adjustable or a red tip, the numbers will wear off, and the red tip, the red painting on the bottom of the razor on the foot, you will remove that. So the other thing is I want to mention when you're shaving, okay, you're shaving, and you get what you want to do is if you want to minimize your residue on your razor, is after you've shaved and it's filled with shaving cream, you rinse it hot water on top and underneath the razor, underneath the cap. It will keep your razor a whole lot cleaner. I mean, measurably, okay? So you won't have to deep clean it as often as we've discussed. Okay, that goes a long way in keeping your razor looking and performing at its best.
I don't think we've answered all the questions. Neither of us are experts on rust removal. That's just, like we said, it depends on what level of rust you have. There is oxidation sometimes on razors that you can remove just from the moths and flits and things like that, but then there's deep rust, and that's a more difficult thing. Maybe consult somebody that works with metals regularly to sort of handle those. But if you just take care of your equipment on a daily basis, rinse them, wipe them, they'll be fine. They'll mostly be residue free, and you won't have to do deep cleaning long term. Recently I haven't been wiping mine and rinsing them, and they've got a lot of residue on them, so it will collect soap residue. If you take the extra minute, whatever it might be, disassemble, you'll be well ahead of the game, and your stuff will be looking good. At least that's been my experience. What do you
think? Absolutely. You just it's like an ounce of prevention. That's all it is. And you want to keep your stuff looking good. Listen, you've invested so much. Personally, I have, in DEs alone, I probably have 15 to 20 DEs, and if I can cut down on my times I do deep cleaning, that's time that I can spend otherwise, doing other things. Not that I don't enjoy it, I do, but to keep your stuff looking and performing the way it should. And listen, if you want to preserve it for later generations, you want to leave your stuff to relatives or whatever down the road, would they rather have a really nice piece of, not to mention history, but performance, as opposed to something that's rotted and pitted? I mean, which would you rather have, right?
Absolutely.
It comes down to it. I mean, so it's worth it, guys. It's worth the extra time and effort to make your stuff looking and performing at its best.
I think that's all we have on the maintenance and care front. We'll probably do something else just on do another video, which I'll post, just on random shooting of the breeze, about the industry and maybe budget stuff. And I harp on that all day long every day, so it'll be a lot of redux, but maybe we'll get the inspector's opinion on products, and may as well do it while he's here. So I want to thank everybody for watching. On behalf of the inspector, I've been your host, CDB. You're not. God bless.